Good day to everyone, to the course coordinator, Miss Little, our e-teacher, Miss Coffee. My name is Diane Doodnath, and our group name is Indian Spotted Eagles. My other two group members are Joycelyn and Camille Baptiste Joseph. The title of our presentation is Multifactorial Role of an Early Childhood Practitioner, and our topic for discussion is more than just a caregiver. The role of the early childhood practitioner is multifaceted and critical to the care, advancement of knowledge, and developmental needs of children. Parents are the initial caregivers and teachers to the children. However, with the increasing knowledge and practices used to positively influence children's learning capacities, they are often challenged to cope with supporting their children's educational and developmental needs. Brown-Fender ecological theory proposes that the mesosystem encompasses connections between the child care center and the home, creating a powerful environment for impacting on children's development. It is through the channel of early childhood education that parents are supported by early childhood practitioners. Through bi-directional relationships, they function in a multi-factored roles to influence children's characteristics, personality, and capacities, not just as caregivers. I will now hand you over to my colleague, Camille, who will do the rationale.
Good night. Camille Baptiste Joseph presenting the rationale. Traditionally, the early childhood practitioner was viewed as merely a caregiver who cared mainly for children's physical and emotional needs. However, ISA 2007 posits that there is an integral relationship between the role of the caregiver and the early childhood teacher, identifying the way teachers use professionalism and knowledge of childhood development in decision-making as a distinction between the two. The early childhood practitioner must firstly be knowledgeable of governing principles and theories that determine the developmentally appropriate practices in early childhood education. This knowledge will empower the practitioner to skillfully navigate the growth, development, and learning outcomes of children and influence positive relationships with families and ultimately the community. If the practitioners are to be effective in contributing to children's learning outcomes, they must be aware of and understand their roles, as well as understand how the role of parents impact theirs. Establishing and maintaining positive relationships between families, parents, and educators is critical to all involved. Hence, according to Berg 2000 as cited in Gelano and Isenberg 2004, in order for practitioners to be effective, they must understand the role they play along the growth and development journey of young children. I will now pass you to my colleague, Joycelyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Tonight I will be talking about the role of the early childhood educator. The terms early childhood educator, practitioner, or teacher may be used interchangeably in discussing their multifaceted role in the development of the lives of children. The role of the early childhood practitioner is multifaceted with characteristics that help children develop abilities to think, be creative, and question what they are learning through exploration and experiment. These roles range from being a caregiver to being a planner, facilitator, observer, model, supporter, communicator, team player, and more, as I will illustrate in the diagram and explain. Let's look at the teacher as planner. A critical part of a teacher's role is in planning. The teacher must set up the learning environment, whether indoors or outdoors, with materials and equipment to support children's learning as they play. Children learn best in a carefully planned environment that supports their learning and interaction with the world around them. The teacher must be intentional in planning for children and how they will utilize their time in the learning environment. As facilitator, the teacher facilitates children's learning, acting as a guide or facilitator, not just by taking control in dispensing knowledge as traditional teachers have been known to do. Rice 2014 posits that this role supports each child's learning and level of development by creating opportunities for developing their skills in all domains. The teacher as observer. Observing children is the way teachers assess developing skills and identify children's intelligences and learning styles. There may be evident in fixing puzzles and identifying shapes, for example, providing teachers with awareness of children's developmental needs and valuable information for future curriculum planning. The teacher as model. Teachers model social behaviors and help children communicate ways to solve problems through the use of words and actions. For example, the teacher's role suggests teaching children how to deal with emotions like anger by expressing feelings socially and acceptably. The teacher in other roles. The teacher is a team player with other teachers, teaching assistants or aides, a supporter supporting other teachers in facilitating children's learning. He or she is not only a communicator in a class, but also a mediator between the school, parents, and other team players. Communication is a critical means teachers use to engage families in partnering with them and the school to promote children's learning and well-being. These are just a few of the multifaceted roles that teachers fill on a daily basis and sometimes on demand. None of them stands alone, but are all interrelated and integral in the development of children in their early years.
How the role of parents impact the early childhood educator. In the past, parents thought that teachers would care for and educate their children using similar practices or strategies. However, research in early childhood education indicates a merging of the roles of parents and teachers, establishing two-way communication, reciprocal relationships, and partnerships for the holistic development of the child. Parents bring unique knowledge, experiences, goals, resources, and a rich culture to early childhood educator, which helps them in accessing the needs of children and constructing developmentally appropriate curriculum. Reciprocal relationships. The reciprocal relationship is a two-way relationship between parents and the educator. This can only be developed in an atmosphere of mutual respect, trust, cooperation, and shared responsibility. This forms the elements of centered family practice. Family-centered practice. The main focus of family-centered practice for early childhood educators is to build a relationship with parents. Family-centered practices provide parents with resources and support that promote children's development and learning, which strengthens the competence of the family in their roles. When parents begin to understand the teacher's role in being more than a caregiver, it helps to increase the level of confidence in their child's development. Teachers must therefore provide parents with educational aids and activities that will foster parents' competence in interacting and working with their children to promote their learning outcomes. Effective communication. Communication is important between educators and parents because it means developing shared understanding about individual roles and how the child can achieve positive learning outcomes. When positive communication is achieved, relationships are developed between parents, teachers, and children. Children also are more willing to learn as a result. This builds trust, respect, value, and allows children to feel comfortable in their early childhood setting as families and staff support each other equally and take an interest in their lives. Thank you, and I now hand you over to my colleague Camille.
Educators promote children's learning and development, forge and build relationships and partnerships with parents and families, utilizing their multifaceted roles and skills. These roles and skills include being planners, facilitators, observers, models, and many others. Knowledge of early childhood theories and developmentally appropriate practices are imperative to their effectiveness as practitioners. Teachers must understand their roles and how the role of parents impact theirs in order to build partnerships that would foster parents' confidence in the teachers' roles as being more than caregivers. This partnership involves developing reciprocal relationships built on trust, respect, and shared responsibility using family-centered practices to promote and strengthen families through effective communication, thus resulting the children's holistic development and positive learning outcomes. Thank you for allowing the Indian Spotted Eagle team to present tonight. Once again, we would like to thank you for the privilege and the opportunity for presenting the multifaceted roles of the early childhood practitioner, more than just a caregiver. Thank you and good night.